Hello and welcome to Legalbytes. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legalbytes merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it. All right, welcome. Happy Thursday, happy second day of fall. I hope you guys are having a great week. I hope you're having a wonderful second day of fall. So I sorry that we got started a little bit late on this. I've been waiting on Nate. He's got some parent responsibilities that he's been tending to. But he should be here shortly. So I figured I'd go ahead and get started, especially because I wanted to have a poll here and I just ended it. The question was, are you excited for fall or are you bummed? Do you wish it was still summer? And 75% of you said bring on the holidays. The other 25% said summer forever. Love it. So I love summer. I love, especially, I'm no longer on the academic calendar, but I always loved having the opportunity for summer vacation and travel and all that great stuff. There's often a lot of events. There's a lot of weddings that happen in the summertime. Just great temperatures. You got beach days in Southern California where I grew up. So of course I love summer, but I always love when the season just changes. For some reason, I always feel like I'm ready for it. So, alrighty, let's see where we've got some folks from. Oh my goodness, we've got some people from all over the place. Let's see here. Alrighty. We've got from South Africa, Monstrance. Hello. Welcome from South Africa. Happy to see you here. We've got Joanne Kurniawan from Indonesia. Happy to have you here. Pamela C. Good morning from Arizona. Still hot here. Yeah. That's also, I don't know if does that constitute like the Indian summer? Is that where that comes from? Mantha Johnny. Hello from Montreal. I'm a summer lifer forever. Clearly born in the wrong continent. Just a little bit too far north, right continent, just a little too far north. Good morning, Legalbytes from Alberta, Canada, from Hezo1, Stephanie from Austria. Welcome. Happy to see all of you guys here. I've got somebody from Central Florida, Sherry Logan. That's great to see you. Good morning from Virginia, Mr. CVC. Bozeman, Montana, Molly T. That's awesome. I love seeing where you guys are from. And we've got Netherlands here. Love it. Love seeing where everybody's tuning in from. So we've got some really interesting topics today. I mean, obviously the most salacious one that most of us have been kind of turning our attention to recently is Nate the lawyer and his Twitter battle, you could say, with Christopher Bouzy from Bot Sentinel. So my buddy Nate the lawyer is going to be on in a minute, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the actual litigation that seems like is formulating out of this series of events, you could say, putting it as neutrally as possible. But yeah, it's. Just a week ago, we were talking about the latest Bot Sentinel report. No one was talking about Bot Sentinel. No one was talking about Christopher Bouzy. And then we all got interested in this report. We gave a lot of criticism, and it just sort of escalated from there. And now we're talking about litigation and GoFundMe, pages and crowdfunding kind of stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. Natalie Wisco, I see you in the chat. She's saying your lashes look fantastic this morning. Thank you. I think it's just the angle because my camera's a little bit higher than normal, and I've got my my laptop down. I usually have it propped up a little bit more, so my line of sight is a bit more direct. But so I'm trying to like remember to like look up every once in a while. But Shireen, Ian Runkle started it. Hey, I mean, we all were critiquing the report, right? Because it was garbage. It legitimately was garbage. But I mean, he was the first one that drew attention from Mr. Bouzy. So anyway, so we've got that we'll be talking about. We've got Sherri Papini, that trial that just I guess ended the other day. She was just convicted of a kidnapping hoax from 2016. She claimed that she was kidnapped by two women, and I believe she claimed that they were two Latina women, or I mean, yeah, I think I don't know if she said like specifically one country where they're from, or if she said like Latina, I can't remember, but I do remember it was like something along those lines. There was a certain like racial component to that whole thing. And then in 2020, I guess the story started to crumble. And a lot of that came with a particular interrogation that she sat for after her ex-boyfriend, ex-something. He had already talked to investigators and they had gotten a ton of information out of him. And they just laid all of that out in front of her. And you can see her just completely crumble. So anyway, she was just convicted. She's going to be serving 18 months. I guess effective immediately. I don't know exactly when, but sometime very soon. But she's going to be in prison for 18 months, apparently, supposedly. And so she's anyway. But just yesterday, they came out with this footage, I guess, for the first time. So it's pretty crazy to see the way in which her story just basically crumbled. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to talk about it. And we are going to talk about the Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears case. There was a civil lawsuit that was filed by a couple Doe plaintiffs, a Jane Doe and a John Doe, that were, I guess, siblings, that say that they were abused when they were children by Tiffany Haddish and by Aries Spears in various ways, including using them for a video that has made the rounds in all kinds of ways. It's not even funny. It was, I guess, intended to be used for comedy for I don't know, for God, I'm totally blanking on the website right now that was where it was uploaded. But there are two comedians that were the defendants here, and so it just sort of like had this massive backlash against them. Now that lawsuit has been voluntarily dismissed, and so we're going to go into some of those details as well, talk about what it means, and what it likely means, sort of what we can maybe piece together, and then what kind of remains unknown at this point, that we can't necessarily conclude. So we'll talk about that. And of course, we've got some Manson updates. So a few of those things, like there's a criminal investigation that's been going on with the LA County Sheriff's Department. They sent over the results of their investigation that they have, I guess, so far to the DA. The DA has now sent out a message about, what they're going to do. So we're going to go into those details. We're going to go into the depositions that are supposed to have been happening in one of these Manson cases, and sort of like some of the things that have been happening and why these depositions haven't been happening. And what it means for the cases right now, what it means for the future of these cases. Fun topics, and a new law in California that is going to impact the statute of limitations in California for these kinds of cases for the next few years. So that is basically that. And now, I've got Nate backstage. Before I bring him on, two more details. Number one, I am 3 weeks from now, Danny Masterson is going to be going to trial. If there are cameras in the courtroom, I am going to 100% be live streaming that trial. So be sure to tune in if you are interested in that case. Tuesday, 10 a.m. East Coast time, I will be having Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology on the channel. So that'll be really, really great conversation. finally, Courtney Clinny is she has a trial date, December 19th. I just learned this, even though I guess it's been out there for a bit, but I just realized this. So December 19th, if there are cameras in the courtroom, and my guess is that there will be, I will also be live streaming that trial here as well. Anyway, with that, Nate, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on? Things are going great. How you doing?
Good. Just going through some housekeeping. So it was good. I had a chance to kind of go through that stuff without boring you to death.
Oh
And
my
then,
God.
so how are you doing, mister?
It's been an exciting week. Now we got a defamation lawsuit happening. We got all this other crazy stuff going on. So, but it's been fine. It's been fine. It's just now just trying to just get through all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. So
now,
anyone that is I guess not familiar with the whole bot Sentinel thing. I mean, oh geez, it's like so much has happened in 1 week that it's so hard to to really give like a
figure it out.
good 10-second summary about like what happened. But basically, I guess long story short is he came out with this the bot Sentinel, which is the company that he runs, came
Mhm.
out with a report on YouTube misogyny, racism, and then randomly copyright stuff, which is like, interestingly enough, like the one part that no one's talking about because like no one really disagrees with that, it seems like.
Mhm.
But the misogyny, the racism, the like that kind of stuff, mostly focusing on Meghan Markle, but then also randomly you've got the focus on Tug for his thing on Amber Heard. So of course we all pop up and talk about how much this report is garbage.
Yeah.
He then targets, so Christopher Bouzy targets Ian for calling him out. Then he targets Rob Morton for calling him out. Then he targets you for calling him out, and he has been really laying into you.
Yeah, he really wants some of the Nate Brody, but it's the internet life though, right? It's kind of what we do. They what they want to do is they want to take things and make you say something they don't want to say, then they want to defame you, and the problem is most of the time people can't fight back, right? A lot of the
Mhm.
people who Bouzy attacks can't fight back, like the guy that he just got deplatformed. That guy, he was it just kind of happened to know. He's like, I don't even know who this guy is, right? So the problem is that he's just going too far. Now, obviously, because now I now am represented, I have legal counsel. There's but so much I can say.
Of
Um,
course, yeah.
but I want to be very, very clear, people. This is not, yeah, we're in it. We're in it. So I have retained, so everybody understands, I've retained Ron Coleman as
Nice.
my
Good choice.
yeah, he's like so you don't know, he's like one of the top defamation attorneys in the country. So Ron is taking the case. He's a major law firm. So Ron is a killer. So Ron is like, yo, he was like, I know, I see everything. Don't worry about it. I got you, kid. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
So Ron's taking the case.
I
We've
love
raised. Go ahead.
I love Ron. I also like to think of him as like I hope he's not offended by this, but like I also kind of think of him as like the grandfather of LawTube. He likes to pop into our live streams from time to time, like he's in our some of our like group communications from time to time, but otherwise he does have his own channel, right? He does, but I don't think he
I
really
believe so,
updates
yeah.
it. Yeah, but
Nah.
I don't think he updates it all that much because he's mostly focused on his actual practice. Um, but it's just like, I mean, every time he pipes up about anything, I'm always just like, Ron is so wise. I'm so glad we have him here.
Yeah, Ron is amazing. Like, it's funny because there are two lawyers out there who sometimes I might disagree politically, but I always say it no matter what, right? I always say it. There are two people out there who no matter what they say about politically, if you need an attorney, these are the two guys you go to. Number one, Robert Barnes. Robert Barnes is like, no matter what you think about him personally, if you are in trouble, you want Robert Barnes. And the second guy is Ron Coleman. Those are like the two guys that you want. So, I'm just blessed to have him. I'm blessed that he's taking the case, and I'm blessed, we're just setting everything up right now. We're sending payments out. We've got a full background check on everything. So we got our ducks in a row. We know everything we need to know about what's going on. I've been talking to the Justice Department. I got another call scheduled with them just to make sure they got all our stuff. So we're working tirelessly to make sure we get some type of justice. And it's interesting enough, I didn't even want. I was like, maybe I should sue, but all you lawyers in the chat, you gotta do it. So I was like, you know what? Yeah. And a lot of the, and I will say this, a lot of the community who he's harassed like this has come to me and said, hey, we want to do it. We want you to do it for also us. I didn't realize how many bodies this person has left in his wake, how many people he has really harmed. And those are the people who are coming together now saying, enough is enough. We want to stop this guy and we want to help you do it. And for all the people who have reached out to me, all the people who have donated, and all the people who've been sending us information, we so much appreciate it. And we're going to try to get justice, not only for me, but for you too. This bot Sentinel, I believe is a scam. I don't have any proof that it is. I don't know if it 100% is, but we will find out. And you can't just go on defaming people online and not have any consequences. Some of his statements are just clearly defamatory. Some of them are borderline, but some of them are clearly defamatory. And he just didn't think we would fight back. I don't know who would go out there and defame lawyers, but he wants to do it. So now, we'll see how deep it goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm best of luck on that. And I guess I forgot to get from you the link to the crowdfunding for your legal fund.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description. Hold on, I'll put it inside the chat.
Yeah. Put it in the chat. I'll copy it into the description as well, so that in case anybody wants to donate to it, that would be helpful, because it's like, even though you're a lawyer, you're friends with Ron Coleman, it costs money, right? Like even if he were to give you the steepest of all steep discounts, it still costs money. It still costs, not just filing fees, but time and other resources. So,
hold on, give me 1 second. That's my kid's school call. I just want to see what's going on.
Sure. But I'll say this to you guys, while Nate steps away. It still costs a lot of resources. So, even though, yes, Nate does maintain a good business through YouTube. Yes, he is a lawyer. Yes, he has the, just like anybody else, has the ability to make an income. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has money laying around for a whole lawsuit. Like I don't know if you guys have ever paid legal fees before, but those can really, really rack it up. So, if you guys are interested, I'm also going to pin this to the top of the chat. So, folks, if you are interested, and no pressure if you're not in any kind of position for that. Like, I don't want anyone to feel like they are in any way pressured for something like this. But if you so are inclined, that's something that would be really helpful for this kind of situation. Because as Nate said, this is not just about him. This is about all of the other people that he has deplatformed, that he has defamed. And that it's bad. And I think I saw on Twitter that you said that any extra that you have that doesn't go towards paying legal fees and costs and all that kind of stuff is going to go to CHLI, Children's Hospital.
Yes. Because because they shouldn't suffer, right? Amber Heard said she's going to give millions, so we can't give millions, but we're going to give whatever overage, because whatever overage is there, we're just sending it to the Children's Hospital. I don't want any of your money. All of every dime is going straight to legal costs. Every dime is going straight to, and whatever is left over, I'm sending it to the Children's Hospital. So your money is going to a good cause either way. I am not keeping any not a penny of this. That's exactly. Yeah. And I'm not pledging it. I'm not pledging
exactly.
It's going there.
It's getting donated, not pledged.
Yes. I don't use them synonymously. It's going to them. So
I understand the difference.
and the weirdest part about this is that the mainstream media has been using this guy as some type of expert, as some type of standard bearer for this information. So I think it's time for it to be exposed as what it is. It's clearly, we all knew from the research when we just looked at it, right? We were like, we know what this is, and I think he knows what it is, and now it's just time to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. I mean, this is like it is wild that he has blue check mark, so he's considered, you know, I mean, he's verified technically, like that's the term for it, right? So
Yeah.
he's been verified by the platform, but he engages in these really, really crazy strategies of like word vomiting a bunch of tweets about somebody, and they're like the most disgusting, defamatory, harassing tweets about someone that implies a whole heck of a lot of crap that is maybe true, maybe not true. In your case, a whole heck of a lot of stuff that's not true. And then just kind of spews it to his followers, and then he deletes them. And it seems like that quick deletion is so that he can get around being reported, or Twitter kind of coming back and moderating his content, or kicking him off the platform, or what have you. So it's like I don't. It almost seems like I don't know. I don't know enough about like how much of a factor verification plays in these kinds of things, but I would imagine that someone that is verified is able to kind of have a bit more leeway on some of these things sometimes than like a normal person without a verification check.
Well, he said it, like he straight up said it, right? He was like, "Hey, this is even though I'm not." Well, first he tried to say Twitter doesn't have my back, but then he goes on and say, "But this is a small community, we all know each other and that type of thing." So if that's true, they do have his back, and a lot, unfortunately, a lot of people who he has harassed only can rely on Twitter. And what he does is that he knows. Let's understand, this person knows Twitter intimately, like they're giving him his data. And he knows the system. He knows everything. So what he does is he knows how to defame you. He knows how to harass you. He knows how to do all that stuff without ringing the bells. So like one of the tactics that Alita just spoke of, the whole defame and delete, right? He'll defame, delete, and then or he'll harass and delete. So you can't report a deleted tweet. And you can send a screenshot to Twitter, but they don't look at it. And the thing is, it's gone already. That's the problem. That's the problem with this. So, he feels that he can get away with anything as long as it's on Twitter. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for free speech, but I'm not for harassment, and I'm not for defamation. And that's just essentially what he was doing. And just looking through all the information, as he's done this to so many people. He's done this to so many people. And it's just a shame that, Twitter allows him to do this. And I think it's just because no one's ever just asked the question of, let's look to see if this thing is even accurate. He's just saying it's accurate. Is it how are you coming to these conclusions? But he's got them fooled. But we're going to find out, and we want to find out. We want to find out why is my account problematic? Why is this account this? Why is this account this? Right? We want to know, because those things can hurt our businesses, right? If Twitter's using his labels as problematic to, and people are saying, or people are going and saying, well, hey, I'm not going to interact with problematic accounts. Okay, well, if that's the case, why is my account problematic? Show me where I've said things that are disinformation, right? Because my account, I don't spread disinformation on my account. Everything is always usually here it is. So if that's the case, show me the disinformation. Like now it's time, to hold his feet to the fire, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to say some shit, but now it's time to prove that shit. I can prove what I got on my side. Hopefully he can prove what he has on his side, and we are going to see.
Natalie Wisco, she wants to know if her account is problematic because people hate her pug.
Your account is problematic too? That's crazy.
She's been problematic. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that she represented Rittenhouse.
Maybe,
possibly. But it's nuts. 2012 Jameson, thanks so much for the super chat. Says Nick, give, send, go from the start. LOL.
Yeah. No, we are the main thing here, just so everyone understands, we want to be as transparent as possible. I want to let you guys know exactly what we're doing as possible. You know who we've hired. It's like if for the people out there who've been looking for an opportunity to get justice, I don't see a better opportunity around. So this is it. This is the opportunity. And this gets, this also, let's also remember, there are a lot of other people who have relied on this guy's research, who's used him as an expert. And if it's found out that he's not what he says he is, what happens to those people?
Right. What happens to all of the people that have been using him to bolster their credibility for the things that for example, the latest article by Taylor Lorenz, she quotes him too. So yeah, it seems like, and this is one of those things that, like, I talked about this in my last live stream on Tuesday when I was going through the Taylor Lorenz article and talking through some of the Bouzy issues just a little bit. And we talk a lot about junk science and how that's something that courts try to keep out when they are deciding whether evidence comes in, evidence stays out, whether a witness is a lay witness or an expert witness. Are they going to be testifying to something that can actually be relied upon because it's been scientifically tested? Because, like, and I think part of that is because, there's a good understanding in the courts that we have a tendency to want to rely on something that we see as scientific. If we see that somebody has scientifically analyzed a certain topic, that seems to be something that people will in a lot of respects inherently trust a bit more than, say, something that hasn't been scientifically tested. I put in air quotes because it's like, whether that's been actually scientifically tested properly with proper means, that's a quality check for whether we are looking at good information and using that to determine whether facts actually did happen, like whether certain events did happen or didn't happen, whether facts are real or imagined. And so when we're talking about his role in the public, it's like he's putting himself out there as an expert witness in the court of public opinion. And we don't really have a means for doing those same sort of quality checks for our public experts, right? And ironically, he's trying to point to people like us to say that like there's no quality checks on people that claim to be lawyers, except for the fact that we all have to be, if we put ourselves out there as lawyers, we have to be in current good standing with the bar. Like, and all of those things can be, there are ways of checking these things,
Of course.
Like if people really have like that strong of an opinion about who we are and questioning what we're doing, like there are ways to find out. I've actually made it fairly easy. Like I tell people in every single video, I'm licensed in California and DC.
Go look.
And now my name has shown up in some articles and in Business Insider and stuff. So it's like, it really doesn't take too many clicks to like find my standing, with the California bar, the DC bar, all these different places. So it's like, I did that fairly intentionally because, I know that somebody shows up, they claim to be some sort of, authority figure, like you want to be able to reasonably check that without, trying to have to like dig around for it. So, but with someone like him that doesn't have a licensing authority, like we have to figure out like, how do we figure what sort of people are actually authority figures in the court of public opinion, especially in areas like technology, computer science, and APIs and bots.
It's the funny thing is that this like you were saying about looking us up, like my name has always been out there, right? Because I was in literally the front page of the New York freaking Times, right? So it's not like my name isn't out there. But the fact of the matter is, first he said I wasn't he was inferring I wasn't even an American citizen, right? It's like, hey, look at the way he's spelling this stuff. He may not be American, so I'm a Nigerian scammer. Then it was like, okay, he's an American, but he's not a lawyer. So now it's like, oh my gosh, so now I'm not a lawyer. Then he had to find out, okay, he is a lawyer, but he was never a prosecutor. Then he found out I was a prosecutor. Then it was so this guy has just been defamatory statement. Like he's just literally been going down the line, and it's been getting increasingly worse. Now it's like, okay, now I'm a corrupt cop. It's just like, what? Okay. When is this going to stop? But I think he crossed the road where now every lawyer saw it. It was the most fascinating thing. So when he did cross that line of defamation, how every lawyer and more to everybody said, oh, this is clearly defamation. He doesn't know what the F he's doing, but he's about to find out.
Yep. For sure. I mean, the fact that like everyone's alarm bells just sort of start to escalate and then they just start ringing, and we'll see where that all goes. Let me get some super chats and then we'll move on to the next topic. Andy the Game Maker says, happy Hobbit Day. Enjoy second breakfast.
Andy.
Hey, brother. Thanks for the super chat. 2012 Jameson says crowdsourcing for lawsuits next wave. Man, who knows?
Yes, yes, yes.
Venegor 10 says Black Belt Barrister highlighted today how Bot Sentinel may well be problematic for EU law and GDPR. It's processing personal data without permission. California law too. There's been some discussion behind the scenes as well about the fact that under California law, I need to go back and double back on this, do a little bit more research again. But it's been a minute since I looked at this. But under California law, California residents are supposed to be able to opt out of their data being used by particular sites, and there's no opt-out provision on Bot Sentinel's website, from what I understand. So, and I think that there are certain like conditions and requirements for whether that gets triggered. I think one of them is like how much revenue, or how much revenue the site draws in, or something along those lines. So like I don't know if it's an open and shut kind of thing, but but there are definitely questions about whether or not it is compliant with California law. Others have talked about Virginia law, other states as well. So that's going to be a very interesting discussion to see whether or not that is compliant with these various laws. We might have some collaborations coming to talk about that. That would be very fascinating.
I think that they have the EU thing happening. I think that's I think all of this is going to be fascinating, because I think the EU thing is going to be fascinating too, because I think it seems like the way what's her name, Steph the alternate, the way she explained it, it's like, oh wow, I didn't even know they had this. And it's clear that they're not abiding that, because just so everybody understands what's going on in the EU. In the EU, they're very protective of personal data. So you can go to any website that collects data and say, hey, I don't want my data on your website, delete it all. And they're supposed to have a mechanism in which you can do that. But Bot Sentinel specifically says, we're not going to delete your data. So that seems to be a conflict. I don't know if I'm not a lawyer over there in the EU, but that seems to be a conflict. And also, and I think in Great Britain has kind of the same standard. Also, there's like a cookies issue. I'm not sure if he's using cookies or not, but if he is, generally when you go to a website that's using cookies, it'll pop up cookies. You accept all these cookies, blah, blah, blah,
accept all, reject all, some, maybe not others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. 2012 Jameson says, Nate, at least Bouzy didn't say you weren't black. And also, let me bring up this one right here. Big LDDS says, both Steph the Alter Nerd and Black Belt Barrister have both spoken to the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office. Interesting. That would be interesting to see if there's any kind of anything that results from that. Meg Perry says the problem with Bot Sentinel is we don't know the criteria and threshold that's used. The assumption would be the policies held by Twitter and YouTube, but the evidence doesn't seem to support that. Yeah. That's one of my biggest problems too, right? Because it seems like the people that tend to agree with Bot Sentinel, with Chris Bouzy, with Amber Heard, with Meghan Markle, those individuals seem to be absolutely not problematic. But other people that might have a different opinion on one or two things are suddenly disruptive. So yeah.
And but the thing is that when you look at his when you look to see like some of the ratings, he did an interview, and when you look at that interview, he's targeting Trump supporters. He's targeting like he has a particular view of the world, and he's saying my view of the world is the proper view, and anyone who conflicts with that is the improper view. So what I want to do is stop those people from expressing their views. And even if they're not harassment, I want to stop these people from expressing their views. And like he had the nerve to say there wasn't a lot of support for Trump. I'm like, how could there not be a lot of support for the man who was elected president? That doesn't make any sense, right? It's like, do you see a MAGA rally? There's not a lot of support for the guy. That's just factually. No matter how you feel about the guy, you gotta at least admit that part. But he's saying no, it's not involved. So that's kind of I think the leaning that we're talking about is that he's trying to control free speech. And the way he's trying to control free speech is saying, if you say something bad about Meghan Markle, you're an evil person and you're problematic. If you say something bad about Amber Heard, the same thing. If you think Johnny Depp won, it's the same thing. And if you like Trump, it's the same thing. And that's not free speech. That's tyranny. That's tyranny of speech. And that's essentially what this fight is about. Who's it going to be? And he's able to do the harassment, to do the threats, to do the tyranny, and then complain when we now are going to hold him accountable.
Yeah, exactly. And the ironic thing about that too is that oftentimes these camps that Meghan Markle, Amber Heard, and to be honest, the whole Meghan Markle thing, I understand some of the things that people have problems with Meghan Markle, and it's particularly about the particular role of the royal family, and there's a lot there. I don't have very strong opinions one way or another on Meghan Markle, but I see what the camp around her is doing, and so that's kind of what I'm commenting on here. But like the irony about this whole thing is that a lot of times these kinds of camps of people, right? They talk about quote unquote speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
Where what they're doing here is punching down on individuals, on people that are starting to gain a following for calling someone out that is a public figure. And yet they're like, no, like we need to speak truth to power. What about the people that are speaking truth to your power? You are wielding power against these other individuals that are speaking the truth, or at least, even if you don't want to call it the truth, it is their subjective interpretation of the truth.
Of the truth. Yes. And it's sad because it's like, listen, if you have a different opinion, who really cares, right? It's an opinion, right? That's what opinions are for. But trying to now try to use your opinions to silence you, right? Because that's essentially what he's trying to do. He's trying to silence adverse opinions, and that's not even American. But unfortunately, he's the platforms are allowing him to do this. I don't know why, but the platforms are allowing him to do this and are using him as some kind of a trusted source. But we'll see. Again, I'm not sure how deep the rabbit hole goes. I also want to be clear. Everything could be legit. Who knows? But I think at this point, when you give me causes of action, when you hurt my business, when you defame me, then we have to kind of figure it out. And when you do it to so many other people, then we're going to see, because again, the history of this person, if you really look into it, this guy has such a bad history of harassment. But again, he's never Twitter has his back. Twitter has his back. So, and let's let you think. What does that say about Twitter, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that can go into a whole discussion about Section 230 and modifying that in various ways, which I know that's something that he actually wants, but I think in a way that is different from what a lot of other people are talking about. Well, I mean, depending on your perspective, right? Yeah. Let me get these last super chats, and then we'll move forward. Monsters, thanks so much for your super chat. Patty Joe Slaw says, good morning to you both. I've donated to Nate's legal fees. Since this affects of all, we are appreciative. Thank you. Awesome. Wonderful. Very happy that you did that. Thank you. And look who else is joining us right before we move on. Mr. Uncivil Law. Kurt, how's it going?
Uncivil Law. No mic. There it is. I heard it.
It's my
Ooh, you said you might be coming a little hot. So
I know that's a problem when I reactivate the mic. So I thought I'd speak slowly.
There you go. I appreciate your Hulk smash background.
I am sensitive to these issues. Yes. So you like the Hulk smash background?
It's great. It's great. So we were just wrapping up conversation about the whole Nate's defamation lawsuit against Chris Bouzy, which obviously we don't want to get into too many details because it's like, there's some privileged stuff it's a good idea not to go talking about all the details, as of course everyone on this screen knows of. But yeah, Kurt, I guess do you have any last thoughts on that before we turn away? Just give you an opportunity.
The most dominant thought I have about Sentinel's report is just that I don't think it proves what it purports to try to prove. That this speech is particularly toxic. I felt his examples in his report where he's trying to say, oh, this is targeted harassment, this is misogyny, this is all the rest of it, and this is purportedly the worst of the worst, because it's the exemplars that Bot Sentinel is bringing to bear to prove its point. So, I mean, it's in complete control of its own report. I mean, this cannot be denied. It's the one writing the report. And so if it's trying to prove this thesis that things are toxic and things are misogynist and things are racist and things are homophobic, one would imagine it's going to, by virtue of its interest, try to bring the most horrific examples possible to prove its point. But I, at least personally, find the examples used in the report to be very banal, basic, little more than common schoolyard taunts that you might hear in an elementary school. I don't find them to be particularly hateful. I don't find them to be particularly egregious. I don't really think that his paper really even demonstrates, let alone proves, the thing that he's trying to set out to prove. I don't find from his examples any sort of desires like, oh yes, we must try to do something to stop this problem. It strikes me, his report just strikes me as this is speech that I personally don't like. For whatever reason, I don't personally like the way that people are talking about these other people. Now, fine, but I don't really think there's a consistent philosophy behind it that I can identify other than his own distaste, which, it doesn't, the paper doesn't even try to define the terms. It just says it is misogynistic. It is racist. Anti-feminist. It doesn't attempt to define it. And I find the overall paper to be conclusory. I find it to not be. It is, by its own terms, it sampled like 29 accounts or something, which is not a representative cross sample. It doesn't appear to be done in a statistically significant way. It doesn't appear to be done in any sort of way that would draw overall conclusions about the overall tenor of YouTube or social media as a whole. So my overall thing, I keep thinking about the whole thing, is I just find the report underlying it wanting. So that's what I think.
But soon they're going to say, for you saying that, soon they're going to be like, this guy's not a lawyer and not a cowboy because he doesn't wear his hat. For that, you've now been doomed to the Bouzy bots.
I may not be a cowboy, but I identify as a cowboy, and that's the most important thing.
I love it. 2012 Jameson says, is Bouzy going to call Nate She-Hulk next?
Maybe.
But this one right here, Sibling Creature says $10,466.39 raised of $30,000. So broke the $10,000 mark. That's great. Awesome. Yes. And it's been less than 24 hours. So
yeah. It's been phenomenal. But right now, unfortunately, I just got a call from something important. So I'm probably going to leave at 11 o'clock. But I want to say thank you guys for all the support, because, it's interesting, because at a point I was like, why should I even, why put yourself through this? Who wants to go through a lawsuit and all this other stuff in discovery? But it kind of was like, well, you know what? I really don't have anything to hide. Like, what do I have to hide? I don't really have, there's nothing. Like, I come here and talk on YouTube all day, and I had a couple of clients, but they're pro bono clients. Those clients love me, right? I've helped them out of jam, so it's like there's really nothing bad that So it's like, all right, you know what? Now the issue that I've had in deciding to do this was, is it like, should I even waste my time? But at a point, it's like, yes, I don't think this is a waste of time. I think this is stopping a threat to people online, because when someone like Twitter, when platforms like Twitter and these type of things see the harassment that he's clearly doing, there's no doubt of the harassment he's doing to me, right? We all see it. It's right there in front of our face. And I'm assuming Twitter sees it and they do nothing to it. Matter of fact, they blocked me for saying one bad word to him. And they let him just straight up defame me. They let him straight up say anything he want about me. And I can't say, think about it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not this. It's all been lies. He's spreading the most disinformation on the platform, right? But then when you say, hey, this guy's spreading the disinformation, they do nothing. So so right now it's like, if we don't do it for ourselves, then we're not going to have it. And the fact of the matter is, if no one stops, if everybody says, not me, I'm walking away, I don't want to deal with it, then that's exactly what he wants. He wants to continue to do it because he doesn't want nobody to stand up. But the fact of the matter, we're LawTube, and we stand up for each other. And the fact of the matter is that I don't know why you want to mess with a consortium of lawyers, but let's see how it works out.
Yep. And one of the funniest things was, like, I remember him tweeting about how we were we're really bad at strategizing because we're sending Nate in to do our dirty work or something like that, while all of us are just like sitting back and like watching or something like that.
That's a little bit racist.
Yeah,
it's a little bit racist. First of all, that Nate is not an independent actor who actually thinks these things.
Right.
Second of all, that he is merely a servant of the rest of us, that we are sending him in. It's like, it's a little racist. He doesn't have ideas or thoughts of his own. Okay. All right.
So number one, taking away his own agency as an individual human being. Number two, I also had a little bit of PTSD about like the phrase, sending anyone in LawTube in because of the whole, drama that happened during the end of the Depp trial. When I wish I could go back and unsay those things, because I was like, I remember thinking like, I didn't even actually mean what I said, but it was one of those things that once it was out there, there was nothing that I could do to say to try to take it. I just had to like just live with it and just try to move on, because I had made enough sleepless decisions as it was, but anyway, but I was just like, clearly, like, this guy does not understand how LawTube works. That we are not some like formal organization. Like, we are just a motley group of people from around the United States, Canada, and the UK, and Australia.
There is no actual LawTube.
There is no LawTube. This is a secret.
There's no official organization. LawTube is just a loose grouping of people that have similar interests, that like to talk about a lot of these cases together and these issues, and kind of parse through these things on live streams and in
we're at best the United Nations. We each recognize each other's sovereignty, and we have a common place that we can come to talk to, resolve issues and dialogue. That's about as good as it gets.
Like I can't imagine anyone like trying to even make any minimal attempt to control Nate. Like, Nate does his own thing, like he is a force to be reckoned with on his own. So it's laughable.
Don't you remember the vote we took in LawTube about whether or not Nate should be able to file that lawsuit? Don't you remember that vote?
oh yes, of course. The behind closed doors vote that, all of us were wearing dark robes. We had candles lit up, and then we had like the special
I mean, the fire department showed up to my house because of the white smoke. I mean, I just,
Well, it was actually the rituals. I mean, those were getting a little bit out of hand.
The rituals with the lawyers. Oh my God, that could go some places.
Oh, you guys are crazy.
Anyway, obviously we're kidding about all of these in case anybody is watching these wanting to take them all out of context.
It's going to be clipped. And look at what they're saying. Oh my God, it's funny because people don't realize that we make mistakes all the time. It was funny because a friend of mine, I was on Discord, a friend of mine sent me a clip when I was talking about when I was in high school, and I was like, this me and this chick used to always argue all the time, and then so one time we went out and got drunk, and I went home and I killed it, boy. And they're like, oh, that means you killed her. So they were making fun of me, that I killed her. I was like, that didn't happen. Obviously I didn't kill her. But somebody could take that clip and like, Nate, confess to murder. And it's like, oh my God, well, you guys, there's more to the story. But then as soon as you're explaining, you're losing. So it's like, out of thousands of hours of live streams and thousands of live streams, of course you're going to say something that's wonky, right? Of course you're going to say something that's wonky. And if you could find the one thing, that's cool. It is what it is. But moving forward though, it's like there's a limit to how far you can take these things. And I think Bouzy has never, no one's ever challenged him and said, here's the limit. There was one guy who sued him pro se. But I just don't think that really, I don't think that, that the person who sued him pro se didn't have the resources to take it the full way. And I didn't think have the resources to organize it. We do. And that's what we're going to do. But with that said, I unfortunately got to run because I have an 11 o'clock. But and it's 11 o'clock now, so I definitely have to run this. It's great seeing you guys. Thank you in the chat. Thank you again for everybody who's donating. Thank you for everybody who's going to support it. I'll continue to give you guys updates, and I'll see you next time.
See you, Nate. Yeah, link is pinned in the chat, and it's in the description below. Let me get these last super chats, and then we'll move on to some other subjects. I think we've got some good stuff that we're gonna look at, Kurt. Venegor 10 says issue with EU GDR UK perspective 2 is that the bot Sentinel system is making judgments about people based on the data it is processing. This is what data protection law emerged in 70s to stop. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Thanks for the super chat. Tish in Tennessee says, you mean you are individual people? Horror. I know. It's shocker, right? Shocker. Tish in Tennessee also says, someone is going to clip what you just said, LOL. I'm sure. 2012 Jameson says, stop lying. We know LawTube has a secret handshake. Yeah.
We should definitely come up with a secret handshake. That'd be cool. Yeah.
There you go. There it is. And Patty Joe Slaw says, question, different topic. Do you know any law tubers who will be covering the Caitlin Armstrong trial, murder of Mariah Wilson? I hear a rumor the trial is being pushed to after October. Lots of intrigue. I know nothing about this case. I'm going to write this down because it is interesting. Caitlin, anytime somebody asks us about whether we are covering a particular one,
I'm planning on covering in October the trial of the parents of Crumbly, who was a school shooter. His parents are on trial, which I think is interesting on its legal theory. Obviously, the person who goes and shoots up a school himself is obviously guilty of many, many things. His parents, however, their liability, both legally and factually, I think, is very interesting and not at all clear to my mind. So I'm thinking about covering their trial. I believe it's starting October 23rd. I'd have to double check the date. But that's the trial that I'm looking forward to covering. And then, of course, in January, I will be covering the very infamous Daybell Vallow trial, the occult murder case out of Idaho. And if you like, I would be happy to continue my readings from some of Chad Daybell's wonderful books that I've been reading from time to time. So I could read a portion of a chapter on stream, and we could learn some more about the wonderful writings that is Chad Daybell's Great Awakening series.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. That's awesome. But somebody said in the chat that Armstrong is in Austin, Travis County Court. So I don't know if that might interest you. But thank you, Patty.
Is that one of the guys? Is that the guy who shot someone like on 6th Street from the car thing as someone was crossing the street? Is that guy?
I think it's the Caitlin Armstrong trial is what they're referring to. But I don't murder of Mariah Wilson. I don't know. But I'm definitely gonna take a look into it and see if that's something to cover. But for me, what I'm looking at is the Danny Masterson trial that starts in a few weeks. If there are cameras in the courtroom, I will be live streaming that. And Courtney Clenny, there's a trial date for her murder trial. Is December 19th. So week of Christmas, but I've been salivating. So salivating to cover it is what I mean. Not like
we know what you're getting for Christmas then, I guess. Okay, fine.
So but anyhow, those are ones that I'm looking at. But I will thank you so much for that. I will definitely look into that case. And Nicole F says LawTube equals part of the ship, part of the crew. Love it. Okay. So they're saying that it's she's a scorned wife.
I don't, something about a pedal biker or a pedal cyclist. Yeah, I don't know anything about this case. But since it's in Austin and I'm on Austin, I could theoretically go there. I could be an infield reporter. Yeah,
you could. The Wanderer says, "I hope Nate's lawsuit gets qualified." If it is, I mean, we would all have to be very clear about our biases.
I'll just mock the hell out of Nate and call it a day. That'll be great.
Oh man. Patty Joe Sloss also says that Mariah Wilson was a professional cyclist murdered by Armstrong and finally caught. Oh geez. Yikes. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's get to the next one. Speaking of criminal cases, do you know about Sherri Papini?
Oh, yes.
So she was just convicted of a kidnapping hoax, setting up a kidnapping hoax with her ex. She was married. I don't know if she still is, but at the time of her arrest, she was married to one man, and I guess back in 2016, while she was with her current husband, she had I guess concocted a scheme to have her ex drive from Southern California up to Northern California to come and pick her up for a few days and to brand her, hit her with things, bruise her, do all these things to her to make it look like she had been kidnapped by what she had said was two Latino women.
Yes.
And
which she then identified to a sketch artist, which was also hilarious since they didn't exist.
Yes, exactly. So she was just convicted the other day, and yesterday the authorities released the footage of her interrogation.
Ooh, I haven't seen this yet. Oh,
well, you're about to.
Together? Oh, exciting.
Yes. We are going to watch it.
Yeah, so she got 18 months, by the way, for those of you who are interested, and which incidentally was more than even the prosecutor had recommended. The prosecutor only recommended 8 months, but the judge, apparently having none of it, sentences her to 18, which I find always hilarious.
Oh yeah. There was a message being sent here. Also, incidentally, wasn't 18 months? Is that what Jussie Smollett got for his hoax?
No, I don't think he got that much at all.
Oh,
I'd have to,
okay.
I don't, yeah, because that doesn't sound right. Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
I remember being disappointed because of the level of like harm that it created to society. But yeah, okay.
And then he only wound up serving 10 days, which was the hardest 10 days that anyone has ever served, at least the way he tells the story.
Yeah, of course. So okay, so let's watch this. So I kind of, this is in the middle of a news report about it. So we're going to listen to some context from them about it. So if you're unfamiliar with this case, you'll be able to pick up enough here based on probably what we just talked about, and then also what's going to be colored in.
She's a woman who decided to have an affair during her marriage with her ex, and then decided to cover it up by faking a kidnapping and blaming two non-existent Latina women. There's your short.
There you go. Okay. So, all right. So let's watch this. And as always, Kurt, if you have something that you want to say, let me know, and I can always pause and we can talk about it. But first off, so this is okay. And let me actually, before we do this, so this is obviously Sherri Papini in the white shirt, and then across from her are two police officers. To her right is her husband, which is interesting, very interesting, that he's there for this. And if you like, as we continue on, it'll flash to another portion of the interrogation. You can tell that he's no longer in the room at one point. So, I haven't looked at this enough to pick up the circumstances under which he left, whether he was asked to leave or whether he decided to remove himself. But I thought that was very interesting, a very interesting dynamic here. Okay, so let me go ahead and press play, and we'll go from there.
So the DNA came back to James Reyes.
The DNA that was on you belongs to James Reyes.
James Reyes, a former boyfriend of Papini's, enlisted by Papini herself, investigators say, to help her carry out the alleged kidnapping plot.
The DNA alone says it's him. And when we talked to him, confronted him with the DNA,
He told us what happened.
He 100% told us what happened.
He gave us details that nobody else would know.
Details Reyes is heard in audio recordings explaining to detectives.
So during that 22 days, she has some
Reyes
significant
talking.
injuries.
Yeah.
So there's a brand on her.
Yeah.
There's significant bruising. There's like, how did all that stuff come about?
She did a lot of that while she was here. She just hit herself with something, created a bruise or something. And I helped her. I didn't punch her or anything. I didn't even put hands on her or anything.
Investigators telling Papini they knew it wasn't two women who abducted her as she claimed, but rather Reyes, who drove up to Shasta County from Southern California at Papini's request and picked her up, keeping her in his house in a dark, boarded up room, using tools to help her brand her skin and helping her inflict physical wounds to herself, as seen in these photos the Shasta County Sheriff's Office released Tuesday.
I know all of those.
So like, I just, There's a part of me that when I see that part about like helping her inflict wounds on herself, I don't know if you watched Arrested Development, but I love referring back to Arrested Development all the time. But I just think of Buster Bluth, who's the youngest one. He's like the softest one, and he he's at one point, like he decides that he's never really had a hard enough life, which is really true based on his character. But he decides that he wants to get in a fight. So he's trying to like intentionally get himself into a fight. And he just goes out and he's like, I want to know what it's like to get my face socked in. And it's like, I'm envisioning that conversation here where she's like telling him to harm her in these various ways. It's nuts. It's nuts. Like what kind of dynamic has to be playing out for that to happen? By the way, Law and Lumber, thanks so much for gifting all those memberships, dude. You are so kind, and also for joining. Welcome to Bike Club, dude. Really appreciate you joining and being so kind and generous as always, Rob. But yeah, so far, Kurt, what do you think so far?
I have many thoughts about the whole thing. She left her cell phone and her Apple AirPods on the street in order to be found because her husband was trying to find her, as one does when you think your wife has been kidnapped, and found her phone and found her iPods just sitting, sitting on the street because where the van, where the two Hispanic women, see the story she said, okay, she's jogging through the neighborhood. And a van comes up, two Hispanic women, and they abduct her off the street. Like this is some hardcore kidnapping, right? But her phone and her Apple AirPods are left nicely right by the side of the street in order to be found.
Just
so that's
placed.
the thing that happened. Yeah, placed there. So that's interesting. And this is she goes to her former boyfriend and be like, would you mind doing these things to me? And he's like, okay. The other thing that I'm thinking about to myself is I suppose it's lucky in a lot of respects the police believe the boyfriend because he's making all those statements. I'm thinking to myself as a lawyer, oh my God. Because like he's admitting to like helping Brander and all the rest of it. So if the police had a different conclusion about what's going on, he's walking into some criminal liability. Fortunately for him, the police drew apparently the right conclusion and that it was all a massive hoax. Blaming not two black guys, but two Hispanic women. So it's nice to see some diversity in our fake plots for a change.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, geez. Yeah. Crazy. Well, let's continue in because they kind of talk about why they trust what he said.
All of those things, and I know there was no sex. I know all of that because he passed a polygraph test. That said, it's not an abduction. She asked me to come get her. No. I rented a car. No. I drove up and picked her up. He passed the polygraph test, Sherri.
That's not what happened. What did happen, Sherri?
I don't know.
That's not a good answer.
There's no way it's James. There's no way. There's no way.
The DNA doesn't lie.
His DNA
was on you.
There's no way.
There is some ways.
There are
definitely ways.
They have ways. Yes, there are ways for this to be true. And one of those is that he was in on it with you. So it's
although it seemed from the full telling of the story that the ex-boyfriend didn't really know what was really going on. So to say he's in on it, it didn't seem like it was a real conspiracy. It seemed like what happened more was along the lines of he called her and be like, oh, I need some place to basically crash. And then while there, asked him to do things which he was willing to accommodate, perhaps because he thought certain things would happen if he helped her. But it didn't seem like he was involved in an intent to create a kidnapping or murderous conspiracy.
Yeah,
it didn't quite. Yeah, so the ex-boyfriend's liability here is not quite as guilty conscious as hers.
Yeah. So it's interesting that there was no sexy fun time, which we would have thought there would be, because this is her ex. She's going back to her ex, to like have this weird getaway from her husband and to implicate some women that don't exist. And it could be, it sounds like this is just like a cry for attention, that this is like someone who is just like, I want to feel like a victim, and I want to feel the benefits of people feeling bad for me, people supporting me. I think she even used a victims fund from what I was seeing when I was researching this. Something like $30,000.
Oh yes, that would be the mail fraud component of the charges that she was convicted of. So among other things, the mail fraud. What mail fraud, you ask? I'm so glad you asked. Among other things, she applied for and received benefits both from Social Security and from a California victims fund, which are set aside specifically for victims of crime. She applied for, received benefits based on false representation she sent through the mail.
Yikes.
Thus, the mail fraud.
My
so
goodness.
yeah, there was that happened.
My goodness. Yeah. So that too. But and one thing that I do want to mention is, we talk about polygraphs from time to time. Polygraphs are on their own are not admissible as evidence, right? Because they're not reliable.
They are not admissible at trial. They're not admissible at trial, but they can be used in investigation. For that matter, the polygraph doesn't have to exist because the police can lie to you during an investigation. Yes. We have a witness. We have DNA. These things may or may not actually be true. Now, in this case, it happened to be true, but they don't have to be true because the police can use deception in it as part of their investigation. And so, Yeah.
So imagine if they were bluffing, right? And then that's her reaction. That's not exactly a reaction from somebody who really stands by her experiences, right? Because they're like, well, then what happened? And she says, I don't know. That's not a good answer, because that indicates there is nothing there. If the story that I have told has been deconstructed, there is nothing in my head for me to tell you. And so, so give me a moment. I'll try to think of what to tell you. So that answer in the face of them saying, yeah, you took a polygraph test, you passed a polygraph test, is definitely just a bad look. But it continues.
Papini denying the allegations for much of the lengthy interrogation.
Why did I do that?
Why did I do that?
I can't help noticing the husband seems to be missing from this
why
shot.
you did that too.
Yep. Yeah.
Can't help noticing he's no longer by his wife's side.
Where did he go? Where did the hubby bear go? Yeah. That's a very interesting question. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if the cop said, hey, give us a minute, or if he said, I'm going to give you a lifetime away from me now. But yeah, you can see here that she says, why did I do that? That definitely implicates some guilt, which makes me wonder, why did she continue with it all the way through trial? Like, why not decide at some point along the line to cut your losses and admit that you made it up because you have a boring life and you decided that you wanted some excitement and you did it in one of the worst ways possible?
Well, she got her excitement in an all expense paid trip.
Yeah,
so that worked out, I guess.
I guess so.
18 month all expense paid trip, courtesy of the U.S. government.
Yeah, I guess so.
We're trying to understand all of it.
The interrogation video ending with one of the investigators replying to Papini's numerous expressions of disbelief about the narrative they laid out before her.
Those are all things we can verify, Sherri. The car rental.
Oh, Jesus.
The fuel, the mileage.
Yep.
The calls from you to him. The burner phone.
Yeah, they kept the burner phones. I'm horrible. Yeah. You're a little bit horrible, girl. I agree.
Think you're a horrible person, Sherri.
I do.
I think things went a little sideways on you.
I think we can level some judgment.
So Melanie, for a
okay, yeah, I think we can probably we can probably level some judgment on this one because it's pretty dang clear. You know, like I usually try to strike a neutral tone on these cases. And that's usually because largely we're in the process of fact finding. So I want to keep my brain as open as possible to either side, analyzing, you know, things that are good and bad for either side. But this is one that is pretty dang clear that she was confronted with some pretty damning stuff that they had found that goes against her narrative, and she just completely crumbled.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, anyhow,
There's
that's
gotta
that
be
one.
there's gotta be easier ways to get some excitement in your life.
Excitement, attention. You can maybe accomplish some things, you know, like
Accomplish things. That sounds hard.
yeah, it is, but that's why it's one of those things that is, you know, noteworthy. That is, you know, we like to see these kinds of things, like when people actually work hard and accomplish things. You know, that's why we give people attention in some cases. So, anyhow, there's another case that we have talked about on this channel before. I don't know if you were here or if I talked about it just by myself, but the Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears case. Are you familiar with that one? The civil lawsuit filed against them, the two
No.
comedians. So there was a civil lawsuit that was filed by Jane Doe and a John Doe, their siblings, that said that when they were minors, they were abused in a particular illicit kind of way by these two. That saying that they were grooming them, that Tiffany Haddish was teaching the young woman, the girl, teaching her certain movements that are, you know, to be used in certain illicit ways, and that the boy was used in a video that was a comedy sketch that basically shows Aries Spears lusting after him in all kinds of like gross, suggestive ways. Like he's got him in a bathtub, he's rubbing massage oil on his back. This is like a baby in diapers, practically a toddler or what have you. So
That's disturbing.
And it's like, you know, I understand edgy humor, and you know, I've talked before about how, you know, sometimes when we look back on movies and TV shows in the past through a current lens, sometimes you look back and you're like, oh, that didn't age well. That kind of humor did not age well, you know. And then other times there's you know, some more timeless sort of senses of humor, but like, you know, it could have been something like that, but this was one of those that I don't think at any point in time was ever funny. Like it was edgy, but not funny at all. And edgy to the point of it had already fallen off the cliff.
Well, comedy is hard. So well, you know, sometimes the joke doesn't work.
Sometimes it doesn't land. It's true. But this one was one of those that, like, there was a whole plan to the sketch. It was like, I mean, it had its own arc. It had its own punchline. So it's like there were multiple people ostensibly that were looking at this and were saying, yeah, green light, let's move forward with making this. This is a good idea. And it was not a good idea. The way that it came about actually was because Aries Spears made comments about Lizzo, the singer, who is, you know, I don't like to body shame. So I said, you know, I guess you could say, and the only reason why I'm saying any of this is because of the comments that he made, but she's a full figure woman and she's very proud of it. Right. She
very full.
Very full figure, right? I mean,
Very full.
It's yeah, but she is very proud of her body. And, you know, we can talk about what doctors will say about various BMIs or what have you, about like health and, you know, that kind of stuff. But in terms of like her confidence level, she owns it, right? She owns her body, her image, or what have you, and she is, by all appearances, very happy with how she looks to the, you know, to the public. And so Aries Spears made some comments about her saying that, you know, something along the lines of like, that's not sexy, that's not, you know, not attractive, and that's not, you know, and so the what is it? The not like full figure community, body positive community, what have you. A lot of these people are very strong in their opinions of supporting these public figures that are full figured when they are full figured. There's sometimes controversy when they lose weight, like Adele, she saw a lot of backlash about the fact that she had lost weight or what have you, because they were like, you were supposed to be one of our heroes, but they can be very intense in protecting the people that they see as like their people. And so I think that what happened was somebody dug up that video that I mentioned before about him like lusting after a little boy, and kind of put it out there, and that made the rounds. And then like these two, they dropped this lawsuit on Tiffany Haddish and on Aries Spears, making all of these allegations. This was like just a few weeks ago. It was not long ago. And, at first their responses were, they're trying to just, wring us dry for money. People did not like that response because they were like, there's some serious allegations here. And there's some like we can all see this video. We can all find this video. Anyhow, Tiffany Haddish, came out and said that she had regretted, making it. It wasn't even funny, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, well, now suddenly this week, the plaintiff in the civil lawsuit decided to voluntarily dismiss. It's been reported that they decided to voluntarily dismiss it. So here is the dismissal. Ooh, that is tiny font, teeny tiny font here. There we go. Okay, notice of dismissal. It's dismissed by the plaintiffs in its entirety. You can see it's dated September 16th, 2022. The signature line has been blocked out. And so you can see that it has been dismissed with prejudice. So I'm trying to make it. There we go. I think that should be okay. So what was interesting about this is there's some questions about like, what exactly does that mean? Well, it means that for one, it means that they have voluntarily dismissed it. It has not been dismissed as a result of a motion to dismiss. And what it means with prejudice is that they have voluntarily dismissed it without the ability to bring it back into court. Usually when that happens, when you get a notice of dismissal that's filed like this, it's because there's been some sort of a settlement agreement.
Yeah.
And so I think that is most likely the case. And I totally meant to, I don't have this tab up. Give me just 1 second. But there was a statement by the plaintiff in this that I thought was a little bit odd, to be honest. So the Jane Doe speaks out. This was just a couple days ago. Let me read this. I think you should be able to see it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it says Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears are no longer fighting a child molestation lawsuit against them because we've learned the Jane Doe who filed suit has now dismissed it for good. Per new court docs obtained by TMZ, the plaintiff asked the judge to dismiss the case with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled again. You'll recall the case involved allegations the two comedians groomed and did stuff to children several years ago. I don't know why the number 2 is like not written out. It's throwing me off and it's weird. Anyway, the woman who sued both of them has also issued a statement saying, my family and I have known Tiffany Haddish for many years, and we now know that she would never harm me or my brother or help anyone else do anything that could harm us. We wish Tiffany the best and are glad that we can all put this behind us. The Jane Doe did not have anything to say about Aries in her remarks, who was also accused of some pretty heinous stuff in the suit, but he's also in the clear. In the lawsuit, the alleged victim claimed both she and her younger brother were used by Tiffany and Aries to film scenes and skits that, when looking back, were wildly inappropriate and which Jane Doe suggested was meant to sexualize them. Jane Doe alleged Tiffany had her film a scene where she simulated something with a sandwich, and also claimed her brother was used for a skit with Aries in which he was the subject of a pedophile's fantasy.
Okay, were they minors at the time they were being filmed?
Yes.
Okay, so that goes a long way to explaining a lot of that.
Yeah. At first, Tiffany and Aries called the whole thing a shakedown, vowing to prove their innocence. However, TH later said she regretted being part of the sketch. So the thing that kind of threw me off, though, is this statement here, though. The we've known Tiffany Haddish for many years, and we now know she would never harm me or my brother or help anyone do anything that could harm us. I'm wondering if this is just a condition of their settlement.
I bet it is.
You think
Yeah.
so?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. That was, I mean, because it seems
If you
like
sued me for a whole bunch of like basically saying I'm an abuser, we're settling. I'm definitely going to want you to make public statements, basically saying no, he didn't do all that. You know, I'm definitely going to want you to try to rehabilitate my reputation. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, because I'm thinking like if someone actually, and that makes me speculate. This is just obviously speculation, but that makes me think that they probably didn't actually have claims. Like they didn't have facts to back it up. That's not to say that if a settlement is reached that quickly, that is the case, that they don't have the facts to back it up, or that the things that they alleged didn't actually happen. But in this particular case, the fact that it is paired with that statement, if I were actually abused, or if the things that she alleges happened to them, or that they allege happened to them, actually happened to me, I would not be willing to go out with that kind of a statement to say like, oh, we now know, like suddenly we have this awareness now that money's in my pocket, that these things didn't actually, or not that these things didn't actually happen, but like that they would never have, put us in harm's way. I don't see that. I don't see that being a thing.
Right. Yeah, I know. Same, I wouldn't be willing to rehabilitate the reputation of someone who had actually harmed me. No.
Yeah. But I can see Haddish and Spears saying that they needed that in order to settle it.
Yeah.
So because I mean, my understanding is that at least Tiffany Haddish has lost a lot of work as a result of this, which is common in these kinds of cases, right? Anytime there's even an allegation that these things have happened, there is very often a full canceling just on an allegation, and without any level of fact finding. So I don't know. This, for me personally, this makes me think that this didn't actually happen, that this actually was a shakedown.
I tend to agree.
Man, oh man. Well, the last,
and what a thing to shake someone down for. I mean, that's reprehensible.
Yeah.
I mean, to make false accusations against someone that they're acting inappropriate towards children. I mean, that's a pretty, it's hard to think of things that are much more harming to someone's reputation than that.
Yeah. And it also makes me wonder if they, well, I don't know. I mean, I was going to say if that settlement agreement also included a release of liability, right? To say like, we can settle this, but you can't file any defamation claims against me also moving forward for making these accusations. But they did make them in court filings. So those were probably covered by litigation privilege.
Yeah.
So, but these are two individuals who, by the way, represented themselves, the plaintiffs. So anyway, okay. Last one is Marilyn Manson. There's been some very, there's been a number of things that have happened in recent days that I just need to like kind of get caught up on what has sort of developed. Of course, as anyone that has been remotely following the Manson legal issue understands, there's a whole cluster of cases, and they're all interconnected with one another, because he alleges that there was this scheme to have a bunch of women to scheme by Evan Rachel Wood and Emma Gore to recruit a bunch of women to come out with all of these allegations against him, knowing that he is in some respects an unpopular figure in terms of like the mainstream culture. He's always been sort of somebody who places himself on the edge of common culture, just sort of makes statements about culture, about like, like what the most basic kind of people say and do, and the way in which they judge people, and there's all kinds of like messages that he has. And so, he's alleging that they've got this whole scheme. They are alleging that he actually abused them in various ways, physically, emotionally, and through the course of various levels of intimate relationships with him. And so it's interesting to see these individuals kind of pop up within all of these different cases. So you've got the Esme Bianco case that we've been talking about quite a bit, and Ashley Morgan-Smithline, one of the other accusers, has like popped up as a third party in there as a witness to be subpoenaed. Ashley Walters, another accuser, has popped up as another third party witness to be subpoenaed in there. And it looks like we've got some individuals that are making these accusations against him, and by appearances, they don't want to be deposed, which is interesting because, a plaintiff obviously, this, a plaintiff can't get away with not being deposed.
But that's kind of hard. If you're going to make a claim against someone, we're going to want to ask you some questions about it.
Yeah.
So let's not depose the plaintiff is a bold strategy, Cotton. Yeah.
Especially because they're the ones that had the control to bring the other party into court in the first place. Right. So, at least a defendant can say, look, I never wanted to be here. I don't want to be here. Right. Like, I'm just like, what's the phrase? I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's that dynamic, but they can't claim that because they're the ones that actually brought the other party into court. So what's happening here is that there's an interesting mix of sort of deadlines that are coming up, because it's like this, it's all the same, not all the same, but in a lot of these cases there are like the same lawyers, the same law firms that are handling these various cases. So JL Winger is representing both Esme Bianco and Ashley Morgan-Smithline, except that she maybe fired him back in May, or maybe he withdrew like several weeks ago. That's a big controversy that has been going on and has all kinds of implications about her deposition and about communications that she's had with him, whether they're privileged or not. And so she's trying to get a 90-day continuance for her deposition. And then there's Ashley Walters, who is another alleged
This is
victim.
the one where they said I wasn't going to appear for the deposition due to mental health issues. Was that the same one?
Yeah.
And then
that's what the lawyer said.
Then the attorney withdraws for reasons I can't disclose, which makes it sound suspiciously like maybe not so much with mental health reasons. Maybe I was deceived and I've made representations and now you made me look like an ass.
Yeah. And then the opposing side says, well, actually, we have communications that we have come across by your client to other people, saying otherwise, saying that she's been trying to fire you. She fired you back in May, which of course a client can fire and then rehire an attorney, several times over. That's never a great sign for the representation. If the attorney is coming back and trying to sort of like beg the client to let them back, like on their knees groveling, like please take me back, I'll represent, I'll litigate.
You get the boom box, and hold it over your head. Who hasn't been there?
I'll be your most zealous advocate. Yeah. So that one is so there was a hearing that was set in, and this is actually largely playing out in the Esme Bianco case with these two third-party witnesses, even though they are plaintiffs in their own cases, Ashley Walters and Ashley Morgan-Smithline, the two Ashleys in the case. They are both third parties in this, and so they've been subpoenaed. So Ashley Morgan-Smithline has made that request to modify the subpoena. And by the way, it's the same judge in these cases too, it looks like, which is also common because they like to make sure that things are sort of moving with at the most minimal waste possible. But so anyway, there was supposed to be a hearing on the 30th for for the Smithline issue about whether or not her subpoena could be modified after the fact, by the way, because her deposition was supposed to happen long ago. And now they're saying that she needs time in order to
fabricate a new story.
Well, to hire representation to help her out with her case and whatnot. That's what they're saying. So, but they cite to like their reasons for it are, basically that she will be prejudiced by not having enough time to she'll either have to represent herself or she's going to have Jay Elwinger represent her in the deposition, which even if she has fired him, she could say, for the limited purposes of this deposition, he is representing me if she wants to. She may not want that. She also could go in on her own and just go to the deposition without representation. That's not a good idea.
Not a great plan. Not recommended.
Not a great plan. Not a great plan. But realistically, I was thinking about this before, is that, this is all happening within Esme Bianco's case. So Jay Elwinger, who represents Esme Bianco, he's still going to be at the deposition as well. So he has every interest in objecting to certain questions that Ashley Morgan-Smithline is going to have to be answering, if they go too far. So it's like, it's not like she would 100% be in there on her own if she goes in without representation. But, I say that, and I still say, even with that, I would never recommend someone like her going into a deposition like that without some kind of counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So the court actually has vacated that hearing for September 30th. What does that mean? That basically means that they said, what did they say here? I think I have the minute order up here. Yeah, I'll pull that up. Once it pulls up. Okay. All right. Here's the minute order here from just 2 days ago, saying that they were vacating it. The motion will be taken under submission pending the outcome of the motion of J.D. Elwinger to withdraw as an attorney filed in the Smithline v. Warner case. This order does not affect the September 30th, 2022 hearing regarding the motion to withdraw in the other case, which remains set before Judge Anel Rocha. So actually, maybe, wait, is it now 2 different judges? I thought in the last filing that they had referenced that it was the same judge. Anyway, I might be mistaken on that now that I'm looking at this again. So basically what this means is that the court is saying we are going to hold off on actually deciding on this issue about whether to modify her subpoena, whether to give her 90 days until we have this hearing, until this hearing happens for him to withdraw as counsel. Because I think that maybe what the court is maybe thinking here is saying, maybe 90 days is necessary if she doesn't have another attorney lined up right now. But if she does have another attorney lined up right now, 90 days is probably a lot more than what is necessary.
Yep.
So, oftentimes courts will do that. They'll kind of push back one decision based off of, what they decide in another context. So I think that's probably what happened here with this one. Now, Ashley Morgan-Smithline, the court, not Ashley Morgan-Smithline, the other one, Ashley Walters, has also requested to have her not her deposition, but she requested some extra time for a joint stipulation in response to a motion also having to do with her deposition. She's got objections as to the scope of questions and all kinds of things. There are issues about her saying that her attorney was not available, but she's also being represented by multiple firms. And the thing is, when you're working for a firm, that means that generally speaking, you've got other people that work with you, that if you are unavailable because you're sick, on vacation, what have you, you still have cases that are active. That doesn't mean that they can just kind of sit,
Mm-hmm.
So usually what happens is you hand your case to someone at your firm who is maintaining it, looking over it, making sure that nothing goes sideways while you're gone, or continues to push certain things that need to get done. And then they sort of fill that gap for you until you come back. So it seems like somehow folks didn't do that in this particular case. It was very strange. But it looks like the court decided yesterday, based on filings in the docket, that they did allow her the time to extend her ability to add her stipulation in to their joint stipulation for their motion. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if they allow her to continue to object as to the scope of questions on that kind of stuff. Because one of the things is, let me see here.
It sounds a lot like they're trying to hide.
It does, right? It does. That's
not
the thing
great.
about all
It's
this.
like you come out and make all these accusations, and presumably it's because you want your moment to, be vindicated.
Yeah.
And then the moment comes and it's like, oh, I don't want to actually participate. I want to hide. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't actually want to expose the truth after all.
Yeah. And
Okay.
let me pull from this too. I'll show on the screen here. 1 second here. From their filing of what they said for the okay, yeah, for this is their motion here. The statement of the case. On August 9th, 2022, defendants served Ms. Walters with a subpoena to testify at a deposition and produce documents in the Bianco lawsuit. The subpoena called for Ms. Walters to appear and produce all written communications with Esme Bianco, Evan Rachel Wood, and or Ashley Gore, aka Ilma Gore, regarding Brian Warner, including but not limited to text messages, emails, social media messages, and any other direct messages. It sounds like this is the production request that they have an issue with, which to me doesn't, I mean, it's very expansive. It's asking for a lot. It's asking for her communications with a lot, a bunch of people, and asking for text messages, emails, social media messages. That's a lot. That's a lot for somebody to have to dig through. But I don't really actually see any problem with asking for what they've asked for. It looks like something that they would be entitled to, based on the fact that they have alleged this common scheme or plan between these individuals to come up with essentially a hoax. I don't know.
Well,
What do you think?
I mean, I don't yet have an opinion on the ultimate question about whether or not it's a hoax. I'm personally reserving judgment on that issue.
Yeah, of course.
I know that some of our fellow peers who have done more research have formed an opinion, and I respect their opinion. I don't have an opinion at this time.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a separate issue entirely. But the question is, do they have the ability to ask for the information that they have asked for, given that that's one of the allegations in these cluster of cases? Whether Manson is acting as a plaintiff or as a defendant, he's saying the same thing. He's saying that there has been a common scheme or plan or hoax,
right,
that you guys are all engaging in. So if somebody has made that, whether they are plaintiff or defendant, they have basically made that allegation. They should be entitled to communications between those various individuals that they have made that allegation against, because then they're able to evaluate the evidence to show, were they talking about it? Were they talking about, Marilyn Manson and saying, let's get him, or let's get him. I know we're lying, but let's get him. That's even different than just let's get him, because that could be legitimate, that they're like, yeah, we all went through this and this was terrible. And he needs to face the punishment.
I mean, it's discovery. You have the right to look for anything that might be potentially relevant. And of course, not everything that you find in discovery is ultimately relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to look at the social media messages to see what they've been sending them. Those messages may or may not be completely consistent with one thing or another, but you have the right to go look.
Yeah. And so the fact that they are talking about that they have issues with the scope of the requests, and this is the request that they're quoting, that they're citing to me, this looks like a pretty basic request in this kind of a case. I personally don't see any problem, but I don't see any problem with it, but at the same time, I understand that, you know, they have been meeting and conferring, or at least trying to meet and confer behind the scenes about, you know, about the discovery, about the scope of the deposition. And so, you know, I don't blame Ashley Walters' attorneys for trying to narrow the scope of the deposition and of the document production. That's part of their job, right? Is to try to set her up in as good a position as possible. But I don't see this one being a winner if this is the kind of request that they were getting, and they're saying no, we're not gonna give you this information. It, to me, it seems like Manson's side would be entitled to this kind of information, because like you said, the discovery process is really, really broad.
Sure. Yeah.
So
let's look at their text messages. Let's look at their emails. Let's look at any sort of DMs they've been sending. Let's see if they've been conspiring to fake this. Let's see if what's been going on. And again, it may or may not reveal anything. It may be all consistent with it actually happened. It may be all consistent with the opposite of that. It may be mixed.
Yeah.
But that's, we go look and things, and then you try to tease out the truth of what happened. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, about like when it comes to litigation strategy. And I know I've talked about this before too, in other contexts, that you know, sometimes when you fight too hard to not give something up, it kind of perks someone's attention a little bit more to say like, oh, you really don't want me to dig into this. I'm going to lean into this a little bit more because maybe it's damaging to your case. Maybe it doesn't look good if I get what it is that you are fighting hard to keep private. So if it's the case that they just don't want to hand things over, and they're not legitimate reasons for narrowing the scope, then it signals to me, you know, as the opposing attorney, you know, I've seen cases like this where I say, let's dig a little bit deeper. How, like, what else is there? What else is there that we can lean into, that is interesting, that would be helpful to our case potentially. And that's kind of goes back to what you said too, about the fact that if they don't want to sit for depositions, if it looks like they don't want to sit for depositions, that's it looks suspicious, and especially around the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and especially, you know, and maybe this is just a coincidence, but you know, Marilyn Manson's attorneys have said in filings in the in the Wood and Gore case, you know, with Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore, there's a whole anti-SLAPP issue that has to be figured out. And before that, the court has to decide whether Marilyn Manson can request some limited discovery so that he can respond to those anti-SLAPP motions. And so with that, he has said, or his attorneys have said in filings, you know, for this motion to conduct limited discovery, that they said, look, we are requesting just a little bit, you know, we're requesting some limited depositions with Evan Rachel Wood, Ilma Gore. You know, there's an FBI agent that you know, whose name was used on an FBI letter that was used by Evan Rachel Wood. We wanted to depose her. And then they're saying, we don't even have as part of this the deposition of Ashley Morgan-Smithline, but we are deposing her, and that is going to be very relevant for this motion. So these kind of deposition delays have potentially an impact, not just on Esme Bianco's case and on Ashley Morgan-Smithline's, Ashley Walters cases, but they also potentially have an impact on whether or not Marilyn Manson's case against Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore gets dismissed. So because if he can't get those depositions, requesting the ability under the anti-SLAPP umbrella to be able to do those depositions against other individuals it's tough. It's tough. You really have to maintain a very limited scope, and you have to show the court that you are serious about limiting your scope. So it's like, so I understand why they left those depositions out of their like list of pieces of discovery that they wanted under anti-SLAPP, because they wanted to give it their best shot to possibly win on that motion. But now it looks like they're potentially in a vulnerable position going into anti-SLAPP if they can't get these depositions down the road. So
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Things look questionable in the
Yeah.
whole Marilyn Manson saga. Things maybe have been less than they purport to be, and that these allegations against him may not withstand scrutiny. And it seems like they're certainly doing a lot to try to prevent scrutiny, which is always a bit questionable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, for sure. And I guess another point on the Marilyn Manson updates is that, so just this week, I don't know if are you aware that there actually is a criminal investigation by the LA County Sheriff's Department against Marilyn Manson?
I think I was vaguely aware of that.
Evan Rachel Wood has been pushing on Instagram and her stories to encourage people to call the LA County Sheriff's Department to inquire about, the status of the investigation, because it's been going on for like 18 months or something like that. And so when she did that, there was one social media profile. Was it? I can't remember which one. It was like Marilyn Manson uncanceled or something like that. I can't remember which one. I apologize if you're watching. But basically during a live stream with I think that the DA, the LA County DA, asked in like a live stream chat, asking about the status of the investigation, basically as a joke, I guess. And so he said, hey, well, we're waiting on the results from the LA County Sheriff's Department. And so we're, we can't really do anything until we see the results of that investigation. Not long after that, the LA County Sheriff's Department provided what they have from their investigation, basically saying, this isn't exactly everything, but here's what we have. And so here you go, DA, make a determination. Which sounds a little interesting, because it kind of feels like there's a bit of a political football that they sort of detect that there's some pressure that they need to respond to. But I don't know if that's going to, I don't know if this is actually going to result in anything. So now the prosecutors have said that more evidence is needed before abuse charges can be brought against Marilyn Manson. Let me get this article real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So from loudwire.com, earlier this week, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department sent LA District Attorney George Gascon their case on the sexual abuse investigation of Marilyn Manson on Tuesday, September 20th. The prosecutors deemed that more evidence is needed before they can consider criminal charges. The investigation on Manson, whose real name is Brian Warner, was conducted by the LA County Sheriff's Department's Special Victims Bureau over a span of 19 months. NBC Los Angeles reports that the DA's office said the case they received contained partial case material. There is more material that is outstanding. However, we do not have a timeline for the additional submission from the LASD. The office wrote in a statement, once we receive everything, experienced prosecutors will carefully and deliberately review everything that has been submitted prior to making a filing decision. The review will take some time, but rest assured our office takes these allegations very seriously, which is, of course, what we would expect them to say. Accusations and SA and DV have been made against Manson by various women starting in February of 2021. Okay, and then it kind of goes into this. But basically, they're kind of, does it feel like they're passing a bit of a political football to you?
It feels a lot like that, yeah.
Yeah. Like it seems like, the sheriff's department says, well, we don't really have much, but we're going to give it over, and we'll make the appearance, we'll show to the world that we are giving everything we have. We're not just sort of letting this sit on the shelf. And then the prosecution saying, well, we don't have enough, so there's no way that we can move forward with this. So we still need more from them over there. But one thing to note is that, part of what happened here was the LA County Sheriff's Department, when they got reports about this alleged abuse, they seized like his computers and hard drives or something like that, because there was an allegation of minor illicit material on his computers. So one would think that if they had found something, they would have acted fairly quickly. Do you think so? I don't know. Is that just speculation?
I don't know what to think about a lot of this. It's just this is a bizarre thing, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like the case might be sitting, or maybe they're investigating and not finding anything and not really sure what to do with it. That's kind of how it feels, really. Is that like they
It feels
don't
like
know what to
it
do
feels
with
like
this
they don't
case.
want to say there's nothing there. It feel if because I think if I'm putting on my skeptic hat, I think there's still this idea of believe women, believe all women, and I think that they are afraid to say there's nothing there. They're afraid to come out publicly and be like, well, we don't want it. We've done our investigation. Let them say it. No, we need more investigation. Let them say it. And they don't want to they don't want to be the ones to be like to draw another blow. That it might be possible that occasionally I know that a woman might lie. It might be possible that a woman could potentially be less than fully credible, and maybe perhaps that that their claims could be investigated, just like a man's. In some ways, that might be appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. That women have the capability of lying just like men do.
Mhm.
You know, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Sugar, spice, everything nice, and lies.
Yeah. I mean, and even if this particular criminal investigation is not correct, it is possible that there are some truths in what women have been alleging, in some of these things.
Sure,
It's
of course.
possible, like there could be
and as I said, and I have not, and I wasn't just playing coy, I have not rendered judgment, because I kind of go with the philosophy of reading things based on the court filings. And at least based on my personal evaluation of the court filings, I've not yet rendered an opinion as to who's telling the truth on this.
Mhm.
I note your concerns and skepticism that they seem to be avoiding discovery, which might suggest that they're looking to hide certain things. And I note that the way that the law enforcement entities are acting seems a little bit suspicious, with their unusual coyness seems to perhaps suggest some particular results. But, it could be true that some of it is true. It could be true that Brian Warner, Marilyn Manson has done things, or not. And maybe the truth will out in the end.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I also feel like I've got to point out that there also is a possibility that there's some weird element of LA County Sheriff's Department corruption. I mean, I've recently learned some very
corruption
interesting things.
in my LA County. It's more likely than you think.
Yeah, I mean the things that I've just learned through the research process around the Vanessa Bryant case against the LA County Sheriff's Department, that I was like, man, there's been some cover-up allegations of deaths in prison and gangs within the sheriff's department and all kinds of craziness that supposedly has been going on. Also, Sheriff Villanueva,
gangs within the sheriff's department. Don't you just call that the sheriff's department? Okay, sorry.
No, but but also the sheriff going and harassing city council members that are speaking out against him and the things that he's doing, all kinds of very strange things and questionable tactics. So there is that possibility. I am not saying that is happening in this particular case, but it is something that we should consider as part of this overall horizon when we are looking at this kind of situation. But or it could be that there is nothing there and they don't know what to do with it because they don't want to come out and say Marilyn Manson didn't do this.
Yeah. They don't want to say that Marilyn Manson's one of the beautiful people.
Oh, there you go. So one last thing today is so California actually recently passed a new law which is related to this, because several of the alleged victims in this particular case have some statute of limitations issues, right? So in California, there is a 10-year statute of limitations period, but just recently the California legislature passed, and I believe, yeah, according to the California state legislature website, it's been approved by the governor as of September 19th. So this is new legislation in California that is going to extend the statute of limitations for a certain limited period of time, to basically allow some cases to be revived. So that could play a part in the Ashley Walters case, which actually was dismissed and she's appealing now. But let me give some of the details about it. So currently, California Code of Civil Procedure Section 340.16 allows a plaintiff to recover damages suffered as a result of SA where the assault occurred after their 18th birthday, the later of either 10 years from the date that the last act happened, or within 3 years from the date the plaintiff discovers or reasonably should have discovered an injury or illness resulted from an act of SA against the plaintiff. And so that was the big thing that really got the Nirvana baby, what got him kicked out pretty quickly. And for some reason he's appealing. I don't know why, but sorry, my attention just sort of got distracted for a second.
Ooh, squirrel.
I know. It happens, especially when I'm going through tabs and I'm all on one screen, so I can't just have things at the same time. Yeah. So this AB 2777, that's the legislation in question. It revives any claims commenced on or after January 1st, 2019 for acts of SA that occurred on or after January 1st, 2009, if those claims were barred solely because of the expiration of the statute of limitations. A plaintiff has until December 31st, 2026, or 3 years from the bill's effective date to bring such a claim. It doesn't include any claims that have been litigated to finality in court or have been resolved through a written settlement agreement. So the thing is, though, is that there has to be an allegation that there was essentially a cover-up that was part of the reason, I think, why they weren't able to file the lawsuit. So I don't know if it's something that would actually play a case or play a role in the Manson cases, but in cases by, like I'm looking at the Danny Masterson case right now, and there's a lot of there's a long history of people making allegations and being kicked out, or there being cover-ups in various respects. So like that's a kind of situation where I can see that playing a role, but man, I don't know. A lot of people have been not a lot of people, but some people have talked about this AB 2777 that it could revive some of these cases, but basically, so it creates a 1-year revival period for a plaintiff to bring a claim that would otherwise be barred because the statute of limitations expired if the plaintiff alleges the following: 1, the plaintiff was SA'd; 2, one or more entities are legally responsible for damages arising out of the SA; and 3, the entities, including their officers, directors, representatives, employees, or agents, engaged in a cover-up or attempted cover-up of a previous instance or allegation of SA by an alleged perpetrator of such abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have no particular problem with that. I have no particular problem with people being able to get justice for past offenses that occurred. I think that the bad people should go away. And I think that people should stop making up false claims too, because it hurts real claims. And people do lie for all kinds of reasons, which is deeply unfortunate. But yeah, I can have many complex thoughts.
Same. But yeah, I do start to worry though when the statute of limitations gets extended to such a point where, like there also is a reason why these statutes of limitations exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the fact that memories fade over time, memories get stretched over time, twisted over time based on someone else's, other experiences that they have since that incident or circumstance occurred.
Okay. We may have lost Legalbytes. I don't know if I'm still streaming. How y'all doing there in the chat? You doing good? I'm just going to hijack the stream for a while. This is now Uncivil Law stream. Okay, Legalbytes might be back.
I am back.
Okay,
sorry,
great.
my Wi-Fi went out. Maybe that's like the little warning saying like, hey, it's been a long stream. No, but anyway, so the one concern that I start to have is when evidence starts to disappear. Like, it makes these cases a lot harder if you extend the statute of limitations too far. I don't know if that doesn't seem to be the case with this particular legislation, because, it seems like it's trying to fill like a stopgap of cases between a certain period of time. And it's sort of a temporary fix. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anything else?
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, you highlight the issues well. The memory is a weird thing. I did really like that interview that you did on the issues of memory and how memory works, and trying to and thinking about an experience I can have in my life where I can remember an issue where I'm like, I'm not sure whether or not it really happened or whether or not it's a false memory. And the fact that I know that is very weird. But there was an event that happened and I didn't remember it, and someone told me about it, and now I remember the event. And so the question is, okay, well, am I really remembering the event, or am I just remembering them telling me about it? And so what's real and what's not? And you get into this existential crisis about what's real. But that's one of the reasons that their statute of limitations were in place, because memories fade, evidence fades, witnesses become unavailable.
Yes.
And and there needs to be some sort of certainty in law. And for better or worse, these things have become more and more open over time. I was covering a interesting development out of Alabama, which just now abandoned a 13th century limitation on murder that I didn't know anyone still had. The old year and a day rule that we all learned in law school. Apparently was still law in Alabama until just now. So these old limitations, is like some of these limitations go way back.
For viewers that aren't familiar with the year in a day law, can you explain it real quick?
Sure. So at common law, in order to charge someone with murder, the injury that caused their death had to occur within a year and the day of the death. So for an example, if I stab you, you have to die within a year and a day of that stabbing in order for that to be murder. If you take more time than that to die, it is not murder, right? So the reason that this exists at common law, the reason it's a 13th century rule, is because in the 13th century, it's a little bit hard to determine what you're dying of, right? Well, who knows for sure? And so this is meant as a protectionism for defendants. It's like, well, you died so much later than the underlying injury. We're not sure what killed you. Maybe it was the plague. Maybe it was a witch. We don't know. We're not so sure. And most states had long since abolished this. And Alabama had a case where there was a drive-by shooting. A guy shot a guy in the face with a shotgun, but the guy didn't die for 15 months, which last time I checked was more than a year and a day. And so he said, you can't charge me with murder because he didn't die for 15 months. And so who knows what could have killed? Who knows what killed him? And we're pretty sure it's the shotgun in the face. But so it could be anything. Alabama just now abolished this rule from 700 years ago. So it just goes to show that some of these limitations that existed with statutes of limitations and things like this, it's become more and more open over time. So there's your historical legal analysis for the day.
There you go. Yeah, and I can see why that was deemed to be important, long before we had medical advancements like life support. The fact that you can keep someone alive for years and years and years for a car accident or something, that they're in a coma. But if you take them off life support, then they die almost immediately. That would be the kind of situation where
life support in the 13th century wasn't as advanced as now.
Exactly. Exactly. It was like food and water. Essentially. So I could see that. But now that we have medical advancements, not only to keep someone on life support, but also to determine that somebody died actually of a bullet wound and not say of the plague, or like a slice by a sword, or I guess we could go more 13th century, before guns. It was a cannonball, so to speak. um, we're able to make those determinations a little bit easier now because of our medical advancements. So
Yeah,
man,
might
oh,
have been the
man.
shotgun to the face. It's
Might have
yeah,
been.
might have been the shotgun to the face.
All righty. Anyway, this has been. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I was gonna be like, hey, this has been great, but we still have some super chats to go through. Let me go through a few, and then we'll call it a day. And Black, thanks so much for the super chat. Says, speaking of trials about school shooters, have you guys been following the Nicholas Cruz case and the fireworks going on there? If so, any thoughts? I only saw that one clip of the judge kind of losing it on.
I thought the
the
losing
defense.
it was well overreported. I thought the judge. I thought if this is what losing it looks like, I thought the judge was pretty in control. I thought
Yeah.
she exercised the expression of her frustration in a professional way, and I thought, and I totally understood. I totally get it too. Like the judge is trying to trial manage, which is one of the roles of the judge, trying to trial manage, and the judge is looking to not waste time and to create efficiencies. And so it's like, okay, we brought in the jury and now there's nothing to do because of course the state doesn't have its witnesses because as the state itself pointed out, we were waiting for 40 more witnesses to be called. So amazingly, none of our witnesses are here today because we didn't ask them to be here today, because why would they be here? Just to sit outside to be like, okay, we're going to send you home again. It's pointless.
Yeah.
So we weren't ready to call any witnesses. So the judge, I think, understandably and quite reasonably, was frustrated because of all these reasons. Like, you've just wasted time. It's a little unprofessional. And so I found the judge's exasperation to be understandable and quite professionally expressed. I think the idea that this shows some sort of extreme bias by the judge is just a non-starter. And then you begin to wonder if the defense team was doing this deliberately in order to try to extract from the judge something that they could use as a basis to disqualify as just a stalling tactic. So the entire thing was a game from the start to try to induce the judge into doing something and be like, oh, bias, which, we don't like in law. We don't like it when you are trying to artificially induce things and problems. It's not good.
Yeah.
So I totally get the judge's frustration. I don't think the judge has been particularly, at least from that episode, has demonstrated bias, and I'm sure he'll be convicted and sentenced to death, and then spend the next 30 years appealing, and we'll go from there, I suppose.
Yeah, the one thing that I saw that I was like, oh, maybe, and this is of course Monday morning quarterbacking, right? Like we're able to look at that video footage very comfortably in our little swivel armchairs and say, like, oh well, she may have stepped over the line a little bit here, like to a certain extent there's a bit of that, but she does, like, the one thing that I guess I had a problem with is how she does seem to take part of it personally. When she says something about like, well, you guys have been really rude to me, and and that's kind of where I was like, oh, I don't really want to judge really getting into like back and forth on something like that necessarily. But I again, like you said, I definitely understood her frustration. I understood her feeling like they are wasting her time. They're maybe engaging in some gamesmanship here even. And that is just judges want their cases to be tried on the merits. They don't want someone to win or lose off of, one of them knowing or using or gaming the process more than the other. So it seems like that was probably the basis for her frustration. But the fact, to the extent that it started to feel like she had been personally affronted by it was where I was like, oh, I wish.
I kind of understand that too. If it is true, let's just assume for the sake of argument, it's true that the defense counsel has in fact been showing her disrespect, like that they have been showing up late, apparently in response to rulings that they don't like. So they're coming in late and showing disrespect to the court. I totally get that too. And then you begin to
Mhm.
wonder again if the defense team might be doing it deliberately. Maybe the defense team is deliberately trying to show some disrespect in subtle ways that might not necessarily be so contempt like worthy. And the judge just did, at least in the Alex Jones case, by comparison, warn the attorneys of potential contempt. And so maybe these attorneys are being a little bit smarter about it and trying to be a little bit more subtle about it. Maybe it's all part of a deliberate plot to try to induce the judge by little signs of disrespect, a little showing up late, a little bit of backhand, a little bit of this and that, to try to induce the judge into some kind of rage. And maybe that's what's going on. And if that's what's going on, then the judge's exasperation is all part of a scheme. As the defense lawyers are trying to do something to try to create an issue where otherwise one wouldn't exist. But I totally get a judge being frustrated in any event by disrespect. I wouldn't want to tolerate it as a judge if, the parties are being disrespectful to the court and to the process. There's a process for this. Let's put on the evidence, put on the case, and let the truth out, and let the jury make the decision about what they feel the just outcome is here. Yeah. Which might very well be that your client should be put down like the rabid dog he is, for doing these utterly reprehensible things. But if that's the truth, then let it be. But I think on balance, I'm gonna defer the judge for the moment. Not to say that judges, of course, can't be wrong and inappropriate and stuff like that. But I think on balance at the moment, I'm going to defer to the judge and her own desire to have respect shown in her courtroom.
Yeah. Good points. All good points.
And I remember one of my teachers in law school who did trial work, and he says, he said he remembered it. He told a story about a time like when he showed up to court. He was on time. His watch said on time. He was on time. The wall and the clock said he was on time, and the judge says, "You're late." And so what does he say? He says, "I'm sorry, Your Honor." He doesn't fight the issue. He's just to because it's not worth it. It's just to show respect to the court. And I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of merit to that position. There is, in the end, rule number one of all litigation. Doesn't matter if it's civil, doesn't matter if it's criminal. There is fundamentally rule number one of litigation. Don't piss off the judge.
Truth. Absolutely truth.
Don't piss off the judge. You want the judge to be inclined to rule for your favor. The judge can, if they are inclined, give you a favor or two, and you would like to induce that if possible. Don't piss off the judge. Always a great rule.
Always, and also the clerk for the judge.
The clerk also very key. Don't piss off the clerk. The clerk
they wield so much power.
The clerk can absolutely bail your ass out. And if you irritate the clerk, they will not bail your ass out, and things will be painful and slow where they don't have to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cynthia Glasson says, "Thank you, Woodstack Daddy." Rob donated like 40 memberships today that he donated. He gifted like 40 memberships to people today. super kind of him. He pledged. He definitely donated. So yeah, Cynthia Glasson, thanks so much for the super chat, and thanks Rob for bringing a bunch of people into Bite Club. Just because says, "Two Hispanic women sounds like she got the idea from the episode of South Park where Butters disappears, quote unquote, and his parents blame, quote, some Puerto Rican guy of, quote, average Puerto Rican height and weight." It does sound a bit like that, doesn't it? Thanks so much for the super chat. Julie Denny says, "Thanks for the knowledge. So glad Nate is standing up for what is right." Absolutely. Me too. And thanks for the super chat. Hallie F., welcome to Bite Club. Happy to have you here. Jill Higgins, also welcome to Bite Club. Law and Lumber says, "Haha, Alita said jail winger. I'm in all your heads." Yep, it's there. It's there. I think I TikTok back and forth between the two, between JL winger and jail winger. But sometimes when it just rolls off the tongue. It just rolls off the tongue so easily. And finally, Jenny Genevieve says, "Are you saying if it is a hoax that they could be planning this to stop his case?" Even if it's not a hoax, they could be they could be, you know, working behind the scenes to try to get to help the Wood and Gore case get dismissed through anti-SLAPP. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that that's happening. I'm just sort of, you know, I was thinking out loud on possibilities for, like, if people really, really wanted to, I wouldn't put it past some people to go that low and that dirty in litigation. I don't know that that is the case in this particular situation, though. But you know, it could be that it's a hoax, and it could be that it's not a hoax. And in either situation, they could be trying to game the system, or not trying to game the system. That there could be some legitimate reasons for their, you know, for their objections, for example, to the scope of the deposition. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll maybe see on the deposition issues, you know, like what results. And hopefully those depositions, like, regardless of whether you support, you know, the women that are accusing Manson, or if you support Manson, you know, I would think that you would hope for the depositions to move forward, because these are women mostly that have brought claims against him. And you would want to see that litigation progress so that they can have their day in court, regardless of which side you want to win, right? Because
Right.
this is a necessary step for this litigation.
Yeah, right. That's the idea, right? We should present all the relevant evidence in a court and let Lady Justice do her thing with weighing the evidence on the scales in a blind way, blind to the parties before her. Right? She has a blindfold, and she has scales. These are the key aspects of Lady Justice. And so just to put all the evidence on the scales and let what merits out. And, you know, whatever the truth of the Marilyn Manson situation is, one way or another, I hope, as always, that the truth will come out and that justice will be done. This is what we aim for. And so let whatever the truth be will be, and that will be fine. Excellent.
Exactly. So, alrighty. For me, that about does it. What have you got coming up on your channel?
Well, at, I believe, 6 p.m. Central Time, that's 7 p.m. Central, I am planning on doing a review of the order from the 11th Circuit overturning, in part, the stay that had been issued by the district court in the Trump search warrant with respect to the special master. So let me just break everything I just said down. Trump sued to have a neutral individual, which is called a special master, to have someone neutral look over the evidence that had been seized by the FBI and to determine whether some of the evidence seized by the FBI is inappropriate for seizure. For example, because attorney-client privilege would be an example of a reason why. And we want someone completely neutral to look over it. So the district court appointed this special master to review the materials. As part of the order, the district court prevented the government from using any of the materials it seized in any proceeding except for counterintelligence reasons. They said you can't use it in a criminal sense. The U.S. government complained and appealed to the 11th Circuit, which you can do because this is an interlocutory order. It's during the trial, and you can do it because the stay is an injunction, and therefore you can appeal an injunction. And the 11th Circuit reversed in part, saying that the stuff that is stamped classified is exempt from the order. And therefore, the government can continue to use the material stamped classified as part of its investigation and as part of any sort of criminal prosecution. For example, by presenting it to a grand jury, which, based on the representations of the government, exists. There is a grand jury that exists and is investigating this. So they can continue using that. So I'm going to go through that order in detail and try to explain all the legal rationale behind that and try to explain a little bit more than what I just summarized about what's going on. So you can look forward to that 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, which I believe will immediately follow your stream that you're doing with Spidey and Richard Hogue. Is that tonight?
You mean with Rob?
Rob.
Is that happening tonight? I've got to double check with Eric Hunley.
I think it is. So
okay.
So I think that stream is happening, and my stream is timed to try to be immediately following your stream.
Nice.
So hopefully,
perfect.
There will not be conflict. So I've tried to plan ahead with that in mind. So first, watch Alita's stream, and then tune into my stream. It'll be fantastic.
That would be on Eric Hunley's channel.
On Eric Hunley's channel.
Yes. So that's very interesting. I've gotten people DMing me on various platforms and emailing me asking if I would cover, those issues. I usually don't touch issues like that because there's a strong political connection there. I usually try to stick within pop culture and stuff, but Kurt does a great job with these cases. You really can't ask for somebody that is actually going to look at this in a more neutral kind of way, calling it like you see it, regardless of who it benefits on either side of the political spectrum here. So I highly encourage you guys, if you are interested in learning more about that whole issue, check him out. Go right over there and check out that stream for sure. So, for me, I mentioned this at the beginning of the live stream, but so far what I have scheduled on Tuesday on this channel. I should have Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology should be coming on the channel at 10 a.m. East Coast time on Tuesday to talk about the Danny Masterson cases, and he's going to give hopefully some good information coming from the perspective of somebody that actually grew up in Scientology, because there's a lot of mystery around that organization, right? I mean, other than the people that have, like him, that have left and are talking about it. So it's very, very fascinating. I want to start doing some more content about Danny Masterson leading up to that trial, because like I said before, if there are cameras in the courtroom there, I'm there. I'm live streaming it on this channel. So
that could be explosive depending on how that develops. So yeah, for sure. So, alrighty, that for me about does it. Thank you, Kurt, for coming and hanging out with me. Thanks to Nate earlier for jumping on. Thank you to everybody in the chat that has been engaging, and to the mods, of course, that have been doing a wonderful job as always of ushering the conversation. And all the chats, super chats have been really nice. Thanks to folks that have liked the video as well, subscribed to the channel. All of those things really do go a long way in terms of kind of pushing this content out to the algorithm so that more people can find it. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much to everybody. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.